Hey everyone, this is Rebecca again, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how I do task management in Notion. I'm going to be very brief, so this is just a teaser about how I do it, but I want to emphasize also, A, I am not a professional on task management. This is just what's worked for me, and B, I can't underscore enough how important it is for you to create a system that works for you. Um, this is what I've come up with, and I will say that it has evolved since I started with Notion, as I started to figure out what worked and what didn't work. I've come up with this system based upon my experience with a lot of different apps. I've used everything from OmniFocus to Pocket Informant to Trello to Things to Apple Reminders. And oftentimes, everything I use at some point I run into, gosh, I wish this app did blank. And so with Notion, this is my opportunity to create something that works for me, a process that works for me. It's and I like it because it gives me a chance to, again, I like keeping everything together. I know that not everybody likes that method, but I like Notion because, especially because it lets me keep things together, and that's oftentimes where I get frustrated with other apps. That's where I find that wall where, gosh, I need this to be together, and it's not. So, a little bit of a brief outline of what of how I'm developing my task management system in Notion. One, I like to be able to do visioning and keeping my vision of what I want in particular areas of my life together, or projects that I'm working on, a vision of what I want that project to look like. So that's an important piece for me, and that's very difficult to do in apps like OmniFocus and Pocket Informant and so on. It's not easy to do a visioning process in the same area. Journaling and bullet journaling. For me, I can't go back to pen and paper because I've gotten too used to the ease and flexibility of apps. And so, but there's things about journaling and bullet journaling that I really appreciate. I like to be able to keep my reflections that have led to why I want to do particular projects in the same area. Or bullet journaling also helps you keep a record of what you have done, and Notion gives me a way to do that. It gives me a way to keep that all together. Along those same lines is this notion of a weekly review or a weekly celebration, and also extend that further to a monthly review and a monthly celebration, and in a journaling sort of format. But again, I can keep that with everything I'm doing. And then the nuts and bolts of project management. I've mentioned in some other videos that I'm in charge of a wine tasting that I need to do, or in my business, there's products that I'm bringing out and things like that. So, getting things done, the actual project management, and trying to maybe share pages with other people, make sure things don't fall through the cracks and that sort of thing. The nuts and bolts of getting things done. So these are the things that I've been trying to mold into a task management system that works for me and that keeps everything together in the same page. That's where I have found the shortcoming or what frustrates me about other task management apps. So, digging into this a little bit further, let me just start with the visioning. The visioning for me are specific pages. So, different areas of my life or my business or the nonprofit where I work is where I do the visioning process of what I want. And I'm just going to use health for an example. This page is dedicated to inspiring videos, the people that inspire me, what I want in life, goals, account information, how I'm going to get there, specific action steps, and then drilling that down even further to the pieces in my task list. Okay, so this task list here is a piece of my major task list. But in this case, it is filtered down to just health. This is all that's here. So you can see, I kind of start in this broad brush stroke of, what do I want? What do I vision? Where do I want to go? And then it gets, drilled down even further and a little bit more specifically, and then the specific action steps. And I am exercising. Actually, I've got exercise classes, so it's just something I do, and I don't have to vision it much anymore because it just happens. It's a habit. It's just a part of my life. But then but there's some specific things I need to do, and this is the nuts and bolts of, okay, this is action steps. These are things I need to do. And this piece here, like I said, is just a piece of this task list. And basically all I've done is I have created a linked database. So, and let me show you again how I did that. This is a shortcut. Just do a backspace. Let me delete it. So just a backspace, and I just type create, which leads me directly into this linked database. I click on that. I type in task, because this is the name of the task list, task, and I can just create that, and boom, it flows right in. And then I filter that down, filter project. Let's see here, project is health, right here at the top. And that's how I did that. And so it takes this huge task list, it's got everything in it, and it helps me focus on just those specifics for this particular page, this particular project. Okay, I'm going to delete that so I don't muck up this page. So a lot of people have asked, how do I have all of my to-do lists in one area? How, so I don't lose track of everything. Well, I think the answer to that is to have this major task list, start with that here, which is really easy to simply come in here and quickly add a task, because you can just click on that plus button and get something in there. But then break that task list down into the specific sections on the different places where you need it. So I'm using health as an example of this, but I have done that in all of these different areas of my life and the things that I'm trying to keep track of. Well, maybe not all of them, but I'm striving in that direction. So that's this visioning component that's important to me when I'm thinking about keeping track of where I'm going and what I'm doing. That's the visioning. So then the journaling and the bullet journaling, that kind of thinking in the morning about what am I going to do this day, or what am I feeling about things, or what a record of what I've done in the past, those aspects of a bullet journal. So what I've done here, and I'm going to start with this 2018. I'll start here with the page. This is what I've created for my year-long kind of view. Now, there's nothing in here at the moment because I didn't start using Notion until August. And so August and September, I was still kind of trying to work out my system. But I could see myself putting in here, come 2019, I can put, ideas, under each month and just type some things in there just to have a one kind of snapshot view of the year, if you will. But each of these pages, and if I do this drop down arrow, you'll see this is all linked. So each month has its own page. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to October. And as I do that, I want to point out that I have October here as a favorite. So this is where I'm spending a lot of time right now because this is our current month. And, that's kind of where I'm at. So I can click on it here. I could click on it here. I could click on it here. It's all the same page no matter where I go. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that there. So this is where I spend a lot of time. And I've just got this here as an example right now. There's nothing in here, but if I was to click on that page, these could be, basically these are morning and evening questions or review prompts. I oftentimes just do freehand journaling. Just start typing my, whoops, get down here. My journal thoughts for the day, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's say that's the journal. And sometimes I use these and sometimes I don't. These are, and I need to kind of probably simplify this because I don't use these all the time. But these are questions that I have found over time that I like or that have been thought-provoking for me, just things to kind of help me reflect on my day or what have you. So this is on this today page. Now, because it has an @ sign before it, this @ today page will always have, in this case it's October 22nd, it will always be October 22nd. So let me show you. Let me go back to, so for example, in the archive, so when I get done with this page today, I will simply drag it into the archive. And I'll just go ahead and do that at the moment. I've been kind of playing around with this, so it'll be kind of messy. But these all started with as an at today page. But because they were at today, they maintained that particular date, if you see what I'm saying. And I was playing around with this. That's why I have two todays here. So this is the actual today page, and you can see there's actual stuff on here from today, things that I had done, and this was actually a test. But anyway, so and sometimes this is quite lengthy. Like for example, yesterday's page, I was quite productive yesterday, and so yesterday there's a lot of things that are, these were all things that I had gotten done or noted as I was doing my review. So, and imagine that my journal would be there. Yesterday I didn't do any journaling, but imagine that was there as well. So everything from that day stays with that day. So let's say let me close that up. So you saw me drag today into this archive. Tomorrow morning, what I do is I go in here to these journal prompts, and these are templates. So I have a Sunday journal, which is kind of reflection and preparation for the coming week. The weekday journal is more of a thought, okay, what am I doing today, kind of visualizing the day, as well as the review. Saturday is more of a review of the week, and then I have the same for a month. And so I've built these to kind of help me think about, the things I want to reflect on for that time period, whether it's a Saturday review of the week or a month kind of visioning of the coming week, what I want to get done that month, or whatever the case is. So I am often, of course, using this weekday journal the most. So I'll give you an example of how I do it. I just simply click that. It's going to create, and usually it opens. There it goes. So it opens up. Now this was the date that I updated that template, so I could easily. All I do each morning then is I click on that, tap on today's date, which updates it to today. And I'll go back here in a second. Hopefully, go. There it is. Okay, so it will always hold today's date. Anything I drop in here is going to be attached to this today page. And I can do my review, whether it's freehand or doing some of these some of these questions that I have given myself to respond to each day. And then these completed tasks, what that does is, if I go back here, what I'm going to do in the morning then is I simply drag this down here. Close up these journal prompts. I don't need that anymore, and I usually give myself more space here, so okay. And then if I was to get something done, and usually I don't operate on this, I had this drilled down to today so I could kind of focus. Most of the time though, I am operating on the board. And then what I can do if I get a task done is I simply, instead of having a column that is for completed, and mind you, I do have a column, but I don't use it. See there, it's right there, but I don't really use that because what happens instead, this is my record, if you will. Let's say this was a task and I had completed it. Instead of putting it in a completed column, I simply drag it up to today, drop it in there, and then if I open up today, there it is. So here's my list of completed tasks along with my journaling for that day. Here is my record for the day. And then, it is already a part of October, which is right here. So each month then is a record of what I've done that month. And remember, you've got this quick find, so I can easily search and come up with some, if I think, when did I send the last report to my boss or something like that, I can simply do a communication and development report, and it's going to pull it up, and if it does, it will pull it up within whatever month it was that I did it. And let me see if I can demonstrate that. Monthly report. Okay, so there it is in August was, so I could click that and it would go right there. And I have these already. This is a repeating task, so that's probably why that's there. But anyway, so it's easy to find something then if I've already done it. And then at the end of tomorrow, I would simply drag this into the journal archive. It shows up at the bottom of the list, but in this case, it would have tomorrow's date on it, and so on. So that's how I hope that makes sense. That's what works for me, and it may be too complicated for you. And so again, I can't say enough. Create something that works for you. Now a little bit about this board. This board, it's the same as this task spreadsheet that I was just showing you earlier. This is the grand spreadsheet, which was a piece of it was here in the health. Here in October, I have it the same spreadsheet, but I'm looking at it as a Kanban board. And the way I have set it up for me that works, I want to be focused on, what I need to do today, what's coming up tomorrow. And I used to have it as today, this week, this month, and then each month thereafter, which most of those are hidden because I don't need to deal with those right now. But what I was finding, and again, this is where Notion is nice because it can be flexible and you can mold it into something that works for you. What I was finding was like I need to be able to slide some stuff to tomorrow, not next week because I don't have to go sort through it all again, but I just like, okay, I need to touch base with this again tomorrow. So I needed that today and tomorrow. And then what I was also finding is that, okay, so I have everything in October, but sometimes that list can be unwieldy and I need to kind of split it apart and what's going to happen the first week and the second week and the third week. And since we only have 2 weeks left in this month, that's all that's showing here right now. But at the beginning of the month, I had all 4 months. And I could start kind of dragging some of these things in and saying, okay, this week I've got to get these things done. So that's kind of worked there. And then, I was doing just 3 months. We're kind of heading towards the end of October, so I went ahead and pulled up January. And then things that don't have a date whatsoever, they're just in this waiting. They're not, that's kind of like my someday, I guess. And then there's a lot of stuff in the waiting part. And the only thing I only put things here if they absolutely have to be done that month. So the waiting is usually, see, there's a lot of stuff in waiting. And I'm not worried about that because it's the waiting, it's not a big deal. And if I do want to, like if I'm doing a weekly review, I tend to actually look at it. Whoops, not right there. I tend to actually go into this master task list. Oh, there we go. And I work from here when I'm doing a weekly review. I can filter it down to just show personal, and then just work on personal stuff. I can then focus on artisan soaps and kind of look at what I need to do there and so on. Now let me say a little bit again, and I might have said this in some of my other task videos, but a few words about what I try to track in a task. Of course, there's the date, so sample task. The context for me is context is the areas in my primary areas in my life. For you, it might be different. So you might have personal, family, and work, or something like that. So I don't have an immediate family here, so this is what works for me. Timeline is my own creation. Timeline is something that I've created that gives me, this is what you saw on that board. This gives me, it's not so much focused on hardcore to do. I mean, because I've got a start date and a due date, and I'll use those if necessary. This just gives me flexibilities. Like I'd like to get this done in November. I'd like to get this done in December. If there's an absolute due date, of course, it will go in there in December or November. But this gives me some flexibility. Kind of keeps me on track, but it's not a due date. It doesn't have that hardcore feeling to it. That's what I use this for. And repeat is something like if it's repeated monthly, it's not going to get dragged. I'll indicate that. So I've got repeat daily, monthly, weekly, so that sort of thing here. And then on a Kanban board, like here, this will show up on so repeat monthly. This is not going to get dragged into my journal archive. This is going to get kicked down the road, if you will. And so all I'll do then is, if it's a repeat monthly, and when I get this done, then I'm just going to simply move it to November. and I'll reevaluate when I get to November. So and the due date would change. So that's how I deal with the monthly or the weekly. It never really goes into the journal archive. It's just moved on down the road, if you will. Let me see, what else can I say? Oh, the other thing I would mention is that then I can review these. So I have a calendar set up by due date. And like I said, these are the hardcore due dates. These are things that have got, I need to get done. And obviously I'm behind on some things. This has got wiggle room actually. But so these are due dates that I need to pay attention to. But that's kind of all that I use this for. I was trying to go ahead and use the start and end dates that Notion makes available. So, for example, if I was to, let me use the start date. If I was to go here, you can have a start date and then you can have an end date. Let's say the 26th. But what I was finding then is that it was overwhelming on the calendar because it would block out that whole section on the calendar. And if I had 3 or 4 or 5 tasks that were all in progress, the calendar looked like a mess, and that just made me kind of hyperventilate. So I that doesn't work for me. So again, I go back to, you got to create something that works for you. And if it's going to make you hyperventilate, then that's not the way to do it for you, and my system may make you hyperventilate, and so it wouldn't be something that would work for you. Let me delete that. Clear. Okay. Okay. So that's kind of how I do it. Let me move that back to board by status. No, actually timeline. Let's go timeline. There we go. It doesn't. Oh, I had it filtered. There we go. There we go. That looks better. That's probably more. There it is. Everything comes back. So that's how I've got it. Let me go back and look at my little cheat sheet here. Task management. So that talks a little bit about visioning. That's kind of, the specific pages here on the side. If I want to zero in on a particular area, I can do that there. The journaling, that's something that I'm doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to kind of just reflect on what I'm doing, where I'm going, how I'm going to get there. The weekly review, that's all related right there. And then the project management, that's in the actual specific task list. That's getting things done each day. Moving them along if they need to be moved along to the next month or the next week or that sort of thing. I hope that's helpful. Again, can't say enough. If this is overwhelming for you, you've got to have something different for you. This is what works for me. It's very easy for me to quickly, whether I'm on my phone and I'm going to narrow that down because that kind of is overwhelming right there. It's very easy for me to simply quickly jump in here and add a task list. It gets it in there. That's the whole premise of getting things done, is you got to be able to capture it quickly. And I think Notion does allow you to do that. You can just click that plus button, pull up your sheet, whatever you've pulled up for your spreadsheet, pop it in there, and then do your weekly review and put it where it needs to go. And I can do that on the phone as well. So that's worked well for me. I'm really eager for the mail to Notion. Trello has a mail to feature, as does OmniFocus and others. And I'm really missing that in Notion, but there's enough other benefits to Notion that I'm willing to put up with that and do it manually for the time being. I hope that helps, and please don't hesitate to give me questions and let me know what you think. Okay, talk to you soon.